Would you do something like that? Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. It is an issue of fairness. So it's deeply unfair. Would you speak completely fair on the issue of fairness? I completely agree. So that's easy to call out, the unfairness of that. There's also a humility and a grace, that these poor people are more likely to commit suicide, have anxiety and depression. And the way that people talk down to vulnerable communities is an issue that I have a hard time with as well.
Well, look what we have here. A Democrat actually admitting that men in girls' sports is unfair. Sure, he didn't fully condemn it, but will accept baby steps on the path to common sense. Unfortunately, not all Democrats are willing to follow that path.
What is your response to that after Democrats had opposed the women and girls in sports?
I haven't seen his comments. What Democrats opposed was unleashing sexual predators on girls throughout the United States of America.
Okay, here live in studio to react, host of Gains for Girls podcast, Outkicks Riley Gaines. Riley, we are so delighted that you're here. And I want to start first with talking about California's Governor, Gavin Newsom, who we just heard from just a moment ago. I mean, he acknowledged there is a fairness element to all of this. Your thoughts about just his acknowledgement that it's unfair?
It was amazing to me. Number one, this is the first time I've heard really any elected Democrat, especially in the governorship position, be asked so directly this question: do you agree with men and women's sports? He not only says it's unfair, he says it's deeply unfair, and then goes on to say it's easy to call out, which is remarkable to hear him say that, because if it's easy to call out, then why in the world haven't you called it out? Of course, California is rampant with this issue. Not only the issue of allowing men into women's sports, but allowing men into women's prisons. I mean, of course, the list goes on. So to see this is amazing, number one. But of course, he doesn't think it's unfair enough to actually do something about it. Gavin Newsom, really all of the Democratic Party, at least in terms of elected representation, have just become phenomenal at sitting on the fence, kind of winking at both sides. And that's what Gavin Newsom was doing there. He says, look, yes, it's unfair, but I don't want to be perceived as mean or anything other than inclusive and kind and tolerant. So therefore, I'm not going to do anything about it.
Yeah, he's kind of trying to have everything there.
Of course.
Now, you went to the joint session of Congress. You were able to sit up there and watch that. This isn't the first time you've actually been to this. And as you look out at the Democrats, and they were all dressed, not all of them, but a lot of the women were dressed in pink.
And one man.
And one man. Okay, I didn't know that.
Tim McBride, Congressman Tim McBride, Sarah McBride.
But when they went to recognize, decent Americans, the poor woman who got hit, with the volleyball, sustaining head injuries. Well, I mean, you've lived through this. You've seen it firsthand. What would it feel like in the room at the time?
Of course, just watching all of the theatrics, their performance, because that's what it was, whether it was the pink costumes, whether it was the storming out and then feeling like they have to go on X and announce that they left the room, which newsflash, if you had to publicly announce that you left a room, chances are no one really cared that you were in the room in the first place. Whether it was Al Green and his cane and his screaming, I mean, entirely theatrical. And so how I felt watching it, while of course listening to the content of President Trump's speech, of course, that left me feeling hopeful and inspired and optimistic about the future. He's done so much in really not even 7 weeks, such a short amount of time. But I left that room feeling just embarrassed. I felt secondhand embarrassment for the Democrats. And of course, this is coming from someone who proudly voted for Donald Trump. It's an embarrassment to the entire nation. I believe other countries watching this especially, we've just become a laughingstock as a nation, which is really tragic.
And one thing that was on full display there during the joint session was, of course, like you said, all the Democrats wearing pink. And that came on the heels of a really important vote that had happened just the night before, the bill to keep men out of women's sports. And, not a single Democrat voted for it. And because of that, the bill died.
Not a single one. And I'm looking at this list of these 45 Democratic senators who voted in opposition of even having a vote for this bill. I easily identified about 8 to 10 that are in very vulnerable seats that I hope desperately we see, different grassroots organizations, national organizations run ad after ad after ad, 24/7, hounding them for their vote. It's heartbreaking is what it is.
The most chicken of them all was Elise Stefanik. I'm sorry. Slotkin, not Lee Stefanik, my apologies. But the new senator out of Michigan, she skipped the vote.
Of course she did.
She skipped the vote. I'm telling you, as a former member of Congress, to have somebody skip the vote is just wrong. And then they come out and try to say, oh, we're fighting for women, like there's some sort of video game. Watch this, Sot. You've been playing all day, but watch this video of these women trying to say they're fighting for women, I guess.
Choose your character.
How embarrassing is this?
This just doesn't resonate. Maybe their idea was to really, target younger people, I would imagine, because I know I can picture my grandma watching this and not even understand the trend that's happening. So maybe their idea was to target younger people, but we view that. There's a big shift happening right now, largely to thank people like Charlie Kirk, of course, who interviewed Gavin Newsom
awesome.
and Turning Point USA, but this misses the mark entirely. We see through it. We call this cringy. That's the word we use. It just doesn't hit. And one more thing I want to mention, because again, this segment has been about, the Democrats saying they stand with women. President Donald Trump today signed an executive order declaring March as Women's History Month. Donald Trump, in watching this, this press conference after, he says, "Women, we love you," in true Donald Trump fashion. Donald Trump is the most pro-woman president in American history.
Oh, he's amazing that way. Riley Gaines, you're the best. Thanks for all you do.
So much.
That does it for us here at The Bottom Line. Thanks for joining us. Really do appreciate it.
Have a
Riley,
good night.
love having you. That does it for us. Take care.